Well, hello, FCCT kids. I know it seems like we've been learning about Moses and the Israelites for a really long time, and we have, but guess what? There's more to the story. Remember that last week the Israelites had been able to leave Egypt, and remember, God was leading them. And I'm sure there weren't a lot of paths out in the desert, so remember how they knew where to go? There was a pillar of clouds during the day that they followed, and at night there was a pillar of fire, and that's how God led them. And things were going pretty good. But then the Israelites looked back, and what did they see? They saw the Egyptians, and they got scared. They said, Moses, why did you bring us out here just for us to die? But Moses assured him, God will be with you. Wait and see what he does. And God did. He rescued them. He had the Red Sea split. The Israelites walked through on dry land. And then once they were through, the water went back, and the Egyptians drowned. They weren't able to get to them. Remember how the story ends? The Israelites are so excited, and they're celebrating and worshiping and praising God. But it doesn't last for long, as you can imagine. So let's hear the rest of the story today. The pillar of cloud led the people from the Red Sea into the desert of Shur. They traveled for 3 days without finding any fresh water. Then, when they came to a place with water, it was gross, it was bitter, it was undrinkable, and they named it Mara, the Hebrew word for bitter. The thirsty crowd was so angry, they said to Moses, What are we going to drink? Moses cried out to God for help. The Lord showed him a piece of wood, and Moses threw it in the water. Immediately, the water was okay to drink. It wasn't bitter anymore. If you listen and obey God, Moses said, he will keep you from any diseases he brought on the Egyptians. He is the Lord who will heal you. The people then traveled on through the desert to an oasis called Elim, where they found 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees. Here they camped by the water and they rested. Then they set off from Elim towards Mount Sinai through the desert of Sin. In the desert, again, they became very hungry and they started grumbling and complaining to Moses and Aaron. You think they learned from now that God has a plan, but they don't. They just decide to complain. In Egypt, we had plenty of food, they complained, but now you've brought us out in the desert and we're going to die of starvation. The Lord told Moses, I am going to rain down bread from heaven for 6 days. On the 6th day, people should gather twice as much. On the 7th day, there will be no bread from heaven, as it is a special day for them to rest. Moses and Aaron announced to the Israelites, God has heard your complaining, and he's sending meat this very evening, and all the bread you need in the morning. Then you will know that he is the Lord who provides. Who are we? You're not grumbling against Aaron and I, you're grumbling against God. Aaron told the crowd to come before God. As they looked toward the desert, they saw the glory of the Lord appearing in the cloud. The Lord promised Moses he was sending meat that evening and bread in the morning. That evening, a large flock of birds called quail landed near the camp. The hungry people caught them and ate the delicious meat. The next morning, there was a layer of dew on the ground which dried up and became like thin flakes of frost on the ground. What is it? They asked Moses. The Hebrew word for what is it is called manna, and that's what they called the bread, manna. This is the bread from heaven God promised, Moses explained. Everyone should gather just what you need today. Don't collect more than you need, and don't store it overnight. Everyone started gathering the manna. It was white like coriander seed and tasted like wafers made with honey. Moses explained that they were to gather just enough for each day. Only on the 6th day were they to gather twice more than they needed, as there would be no manna on the 7th day. Most people obeyed God, and they gathered just enough food for that day. Some, however, were very greedy and disobeyed God, and they gathered more than they needed, and they stored it overnight. And the next morning it was full of maggots, and it smelled really, really bad. On the 6th day, most people gathered twice as much, just like God had told them. And then on the 7th day, their extra manna was still fresh, and they could eat it. Some, however, went out looking for manna, but there was none. God declared on the 7th day it would be a special day of rest, warned Moses. Everyone is to stay where they are, and they're to rest. The Israelites traveled on towards Mount Sinai. And they wandered in the desert for 40 years and they ate manna for 40 years every day. Can you imagine eating the same thing every day? Yeah, not wouldn't be much fun. When they camped at Rephidim, there was no water to drink. They complained and quarreled with Moses, demanding, "Give us water to drink." "Why do you fight with me?" said Moses. "Why do you keep testing God?" Moses cried out to God for help. "What am I going to do with these people? They're ready to stone me." God said, "Go out to the people and take the leaders with you to the rock at Horeb. Carry your staff with you and strike the rock." The leaders followed Moses to the rock at Horeb and watched as he struck it with his staff. Water burst out of the rock, just as God had promised. Everyone drank the water. Moses called the place Massah and Meribah because people had doubted God by asking, "Is the Lord with us or not?" In Hebrew, Massah means testing and Meribah means quarreling. God had kept his promise and he provided food and water in the desert.